All right, guys. So let's start with today's session. Yesterday we were talking about regular expression, and I gave you guys a question. The question was regarding some emails, if I'm correct. So there were these emails, and you had to write an expression that could match all of them. Could you guys do it? Please give a thumbs up if you guys have done it. Otherwise, I'll explain how to do. Okay, give me a thumbs up if you don't have the solution for the same. Okay. All right. So let's have a look at the approach that we were using yesterday, and we are going to use the same function. So the very first step is to use the compile function, and we are going to generate the pattern. So here the pattern that we are going to generate, it should match all of these emails. So if you guys aren't aware about, uh, all right, I just want to give a disclaimer. This session is for AI, machine learning, and Python. So people who are interested, they can stay connected. Otherwise, you guys are free to leave the session. This is a training session that happens every morning. If there's anyone who's not interested, they can leave the session. All right. So I was talking about that we have to create this pattern. And yesterday we were using this writer function to iterate through this pattern. Let me just write the loop. And we were printing the relevant matches from our string. So the string here is emails. So here, what I want to match, I want to write a raw string. So we are going to follow the step-by-step approach again. I am uh, planning to write a raw string here. And the very first thing that I can start with is that I am expecting that the first thing inside these emails, these are some alphabets. These alphabets, they can be uppercase or they can be lowercase. So it would be easier for me if I pass a character set here from capital A to Z and small a to Z. Okay. Then after that, I am going to mention a plus here. Okay, so why am I mentioning a plus here? Because there can be zero or one occurrence of this character. Okay, so there can be one uppercase character or there can be like no uppercase character, right? So that's why we are mentioning a plus here. Let me import the module as well. People who might find it a bit difficult, these you guys please refer to the recording of the yesterday's session. Now after that, in some of the emails, you can clearly observe that we have this at the rate symbol. So when we put at the rate, okay, we are able to match the first email till this symbol. However, in the second and the third email, we have some issues. We'll rectify it as well. Now, after this at the rate symbol, again, we are expecting some characters. So let's put the characters A to Z, and these characters can also be from capital A to Z. So I'm able to match with the next character of this at the rate symbol. Again, put a plus and we'll be able to match with the whole word. People who are having difficulty, what this plus means, what the at the rate symbol and what our character set, again, I'll say, please watch yesterday's recording. Okay. Now, after that, we are planning to match with a dot. And whenever we need to match with dot, we use slash dot. Okay. So first wala email, it is like matching fine. Second wala and the third email, they are having some issues, but we'll figure about that as well. Then we have form in the first one. So you can see that with this character, with this pattern, I'm able to match only with the first email that is present. So I told you guys about like we guys can even provide choices here. So after like this dot, I'm either expecting .com and I'm also expecting .org. So separated by this pipe symbol, I have mentioned org as well. Now you can see that the second email is also matched. Okay, some issues are here, but like after the dot, everything is matched. So let's figure out why we are not able to match the third email and the second email before the dot. So as you can guys can see कि second email में और third email में we have a separator here. And up until now we haven't mentioned in this first part, just before the @ symbol, this the pattern that we are defining, it should match with the first part of these emails. But आप लोग देख रहे हो कि for second and third email we have not defined any kind of separator, either dot, dash or dot. So let's define that as well. So here itself, I'm going to define that I am also looking for some digits. Okay. And see here we have the digits, so I'm matching for it. And also we can find dash or dot. So you can see that the second email is also matched properly. अब third वाले में what is the difficulty that we are finding? It is that कि इसमें dash पहले भी है and then there are some digits और फिर dash है. Due to this, we have matched, we have written about the digits in the character set, we have written about the dash, but the dash that is followed after the first set, that is not mentioned here. So let me mention about that as well. All right, so it is not giving the expected email. We have 0 to 9, A to Z. Just give me a moment, guys, to figure it out. You guys can also have a look, and if you want to provide some suggestions, I am up for it. So we have matched with A to Z's and capital as well. 0 to 9 is also here. Dash dot is also here. And let's mention with about net as well. Net is missing. Yeah. So it wasn't able to match with the third email since I haven't written about net, जो इसका domain था. So here you guys can see that this is the pattern and this is the way to write the pattern step by step so that you can match with the necessary elements of your string. Is it clear to everyone? People who were present in yesterday's session, are you clear about how to write a pattern? Okay. All right. So I would suggest that you guys please go through previous recording to understand the basics. Also, please look for some functions. Okay, so there are some functions such as uh, dot match, and we have also function for group. Okay, so please look at these functions. इनके अलावा भी काफी functions होते हैं. So have a look at them once. And these functions, they'll help you to generate various kind of regular expressions. इसके बाद yeah, we also have a function sub. इसके बारे में भी मैं mention कर देती हूँ. Okay. Now, as for the web scraping part, we went through the web scraping of static websites. Okay. And when we talk about scraping dynamic website, this can be a really huge task. Okay. And we are already on a time bound schedule. So I would recommend everyone that whoever is interested in learning about the dynamic web scraping, or even in future, if you encounter with some kind of project, there is a YouTube channel by a person, James Watson Rooney. Okay, you can refer to his channel, and he has all kinds of videos regarding all the libraries that can be used to scrape content effectively. All right, please give me a thumbs up if all the instructions still here are clear to everyone. All right, now we all have a basic understanding about what Python is, what are some of the like unique libraries in Python and how to use them. We also know about concepts such as web scraping and regular expression and libraries such as IP widgets. Now we are knowledgeable enough that we can start with the machine learning. अब इस machine learning में very first thing that we will start learning is probability and stats. Okay, then we will move towards understanding the algorithms of machine learning. So from today on, the class will be part theoretical and part practical. So I would give you a heads up. We will be going through theory as well. All right, so I am, I have a PPT for you guys, and let's go through it. All right, are you able to see the PPT? Can you please give me a thumbs up? Acha, theek hai. So let's understand the basics about the probability theory. Now, all of you are well aware about probability and why do we use it. School में सभी ने पढ़ा था. So the probability that we are talking about here, it is the same. So whenever someone asks you what are the chances of getting a 6 after rolling a dice, or what is the chance that you draw a card from a deck of cards and it will be an ace. So all the chances that you are calculating for these events, it is termed as probability. We know that there is a 1 in 6 chance that we are going to get 6 after we roll a dice. और ये चीज हमें पता कैसे लगती है? We calculate the probability of any event by like putting the number of favorable outcomes that are in favor of A and dividing it by total number of outcomes. The basic probability formula. Now, what probability helps us? It helps us to get the correct number of predicted outcomes. And it tells us how likely there is a chance of something happening. Now, when we have probability, so what do? We analyze these events. Okay. And that analysis of probability, that is done with help of statistics. So whenever you study about probability, you also have to study about statistics if you want to use them in close communions in machine learning. All right. Now there can be three ways to interpret any probability. So there can be an impossible event, जिसकी probability 0 होती है. There can be a likely event, जिसकी probability 0 से 1 के बीच में होगी. And there is going to be a certain event, जिसकी probability will be equal to 1. These are the very basic thing, and I like know that you guys already know about them, but it would be really easy if we start from the very basics. Okay, now let's understand about the need of probability theory. So we widely use it. Okay, even the news channels, when they predict any kind of weather forecast, they make those predictions by statistically analyzing the data or the records of weather over the years and then comparing it to the today world scenario and then giving you a probability कि कितने chances हैं that the weather will be like this tomorrow. Will it be sunny? Will it be rainy? Or so on. Also in casinos and in gambling, probability can be used, and people also use it to predict the performance of stocks and bonds. Uh, Many companies who like want to calculate their daily profit and who want to compare that profit and who are dependent कि मतलब अपना इतना profit या कितना loss होता है day by day basis पे. So those companies, they also use probability theory and statistics to know about their profits and losses. अब जैसे weather forecasting में what do people do? At times we hear that like the forecasters say कि there is a 70% chance that it might rain the next day. So how are they able to predict that there is a 70% chance? In actuality, what they use, they like perform experiments and they use algorithms to understand what is the likelihood of weather happenings, ki kya chances hai of that weather. They look at the historical data as well and combine it with the current trends and look at the chances ki kya chances hai that rain is going to occur on that particular day. Now the 70%, if I'm saying that with 70% certainty rain is going to happen, so it implies that 70 or like this is going to imply that out of 100 times जब ऐसे weather conditions थे in the past, 70 times rain has up. Okay, so whenever they are telling you about rains, about hailstorms or about thunderstorms, all of this data, it is not based upon the current weather. Uh, it also has been evaluated by having a look at the weather of the past. Alright, please give a thumbs up अगर यहाँ तक सबको clear है. Alright, thank you. Now let's talk about events of probability. So there can be various events. Union और intersection के बारे में तो सबको पता होगा. Union is basically the combination of both the events, and intersection is basically the common part of the two events that you are working on. So union of events को represent कैसे करते हैं? Probability of A union B. It talks about the probability of happening of event A or B. A या B में से कुछ भी हो जाए. This is equivalent to logical OR, and this gives us the additional rule of probability. So I want to calculate the probability of A union B. I can use this formula. Probability of A plus probability of B minus the intersection of both the probabilities. Are you guys aware about this formula? Can you recall a little bit about? Okay. Now, intersection of events, it implies what is the chances of A and B occurring. So it means that the likelihood of two events occurring simultaneously, okay, at the same time. And this is equivalent to logical AND. So probability of A intersection B, it is given by probability of A multiplied by probability of B. And this is also known as the multiplication rule of probability. This was the addition rule, and this was the multiplication rule. Now, talking about independent and dependent events. See, these are very important events with respect to what we are going to learn in future. So, independent events वो होते हैं when the occurrence of one event does not depend upon the other event. For example, if I say कि I am tossing a coin, what are the chances of getting head? तो head के chances, they are not in any way related to getting a tail, right? Getting a head and getting a tail. Both are different events. So these such events are independent. Like also there is an example, taking an Uber ride and getting a free meal at your favorite restaurant. Both of these events, they are independent. Uber ride has no relation of getting have no relation with getting a free meal at your favorite restaurant. Now, what are dependent events? Dependent events वो होते हैं where the occurrence of one event affects the other. Okay. So not paying your power bill on time and having your power cut off. So both of these events, they are dependent. If I don't pay my bill, my power will be cut off. A common example that you guys can take, like if I have a deck of cards and if I ask you, what are the chances of getting an ace in first turn? What kind of event is this? What are the chances of getting an ace in the first draw? Yeah, this is an independent event. किसी भी और event पे dependent नहीं है. What if I say, what are the chances of getting a face card given that an ace has already been drawn out in the first draw? I'm writing it in the chat box. What are the chances of getting a face card? Mood has told about it. It is a dependent event. Nevertheless, I'll put the question so you guys can relate. So I was asking what are the chances of getting a face card given that an ace has already been drawn out. So here, getting a face card in the second turn, it depends upon whether the ace was drawn out in the first turn or Okay, and since we are drawing the ace out, the number of cards in the deck, that also changes. Okay, so in this case, these two events, they are what? They are dependent events. Probability of the event that is going to occur, it already depends upon something that has happened, right? So similarly, we have joint and disjoint event also. So disjoint events are the events जिसमें क्या होता है कि the probability of them occurring at the same time is zero. Yeah. So playing a football game at the same time and playing a rugby game, दोनों event एक साथ नहीं हो सकते. Now what is joint event? Joint event वो होते हैं जो एक साथ occur हो सकते हैं. Like playing football while wearing a white jersey. These events they can occur at the same time. So the main thing about independent and dependent events, basically वो event जो एक साथ होने लग रहे हैं, it gives me a formula and it gives me a concept that is known as conditional probability. Okay, तो जो अभी आप लोगों ने बताया कि drawing a face card when an ace has already been drawn out, this is an example of conditional probability. So what is conditional probability? The probability of second event given that first one has already occurred. ठीक है, इसको हम conditional probability बोलते हैं. Example के लिए हम बोल सकते हैं drawing two aces one after the other without replacing the first one in the deck. अगर मैं अपना पहला कार्ड निकालना हुआ, like I said कि I drew an ace first, or what are the chances of getting a face card? But if I put that ace back into the deck of card, now is the probability affected? Is still the chances of getting a face card depending upon getting out the ace? No, it is not, क्योंकि मैंने replacement कर दिया है. Got it? So here again an example is here कि probability of selling a TV on a given normal day may only be 30%. But if we consider that the given day is Diwali or maybe it is a festival, so there are more chances of selling a TV because people they tend to buy more around festivals. Okay, so these kind of scenarios where we want to like here only we can understand कि एक festival के ऊपर मेरी sales काफी depend कर रही है. So all of these things they can be calculated using conditional probability, which is represented as the probability of A given that B has already occurred. Representation ऐसे होती है और बोलते हैं कि the probability of A given that event B has already occurred. Okay. So this here is the formula. So if I have two events A and B और उनकी conditional probability मेरे को निकालनी है, it is equivalent to the probability of intersection of both events divided by the probability of B, because B is the event which has already occurred. Okay, and also please look at this Venn diagram. It will help you to understand the concept even in a better manner. All right. So one more example I have included to make it like much clearer. Consider that you have to find an apartment and you start searching for it. What would be the chances that you find it near your place of work? So इस case में what is A and what is B? A here is the probability of finding an apartment, okay, individual probability of that event. B here stands for finding it near your workplace. And probability of A conditional B means that what is the probability of finding an apartment near your workplace. Also, please do keep in mind that A conditional B is different from B conditional A. Do you guys understand why A conditional B is different from B conditional A? Okay, क्योंकि यहाँ पे I have like changed the scenario. Probability of event B occurring given that A has already occurred. इस case में B has occurred. Like, please give a thumbs up if all the concepts are clear till here to everyone. Okay, thanks a lot. Let's take a 2-minute break and we'll continue with what Bayes theorem is. All right, a 2 minutes break for everyone. Okay, do we have everyone here? Can you guys give a thumbs up? Okay, so let's understand what Bayes theorem is. So, Bayes theorem, it describes the probability of an event based on prior knowledge of conditions that might be related to the event. Okay, so this is the bookish definition of what Bayes theorem actually is. Basically, it is an extension of conditional probability. The formula that we learned about, the concept that we learned about independent events, their probabilities can be calculated using something known as conditional probability. So that conditional probability here is put to use to calculate the probability of an event based upon a knowledge or an event that has already occurred. Basically, based upon uh, past incidents. Okay. तो एक एग्जांपल ले सकता है if a disease is related to age, then using Bayes theorem a person's age can be used to more accurately assess the probability that they have the disease compared to the assessment of the probability of disease made without knowledge of the person's age. तो अगर मैं एक किसी disease की probability निकालूं which is highly dependent upon age factor, so if I calculate the individual probability without having any knowledge about that person's age, that probability would be different. And when I already know that a person is, let's say a person is old enough, and since people, they are very likely to have diabetes. So if I already have information about that person's age, my probability of calculating whether they will have that disease or not, it is going to enhance, it is going to change, and it will be changing for better. ठीक है, मेरे को थोड़ा extra पता लग जाएगा because I have this knowledge now. Now, why Bayes theorem is like different? Why is there a need to study about it? So I'm going to take us through this example, but firstly, I'll mention something verbally. So COVID के time पे, like we all were going to get tests, right? But were all the tests accurate? No, right? There was some kind of error in those tests. ऐसा होता था कि like some people who were positive, they were predicted negative by the test. And some people who were negative, in fact, they were predicted positive by the test. Can you agree on this? Like, very likely thing to happen. Okay. So, what these scenarios are, these are false positive and false negative cases. So, okay, I'm writing in the chat box. So, we have false positives and false negative and true positive and true negative. Alright, please closely listen about these terms क्योंकि these terms you we will be using in future as well. कोई भी जब टेस्ट होता है या any kind of prediction is made, there are four kinds of cases, four kinds of scenario that are possible. There will be some true positive cases. Let's say मैंने एक model बनाया which is going to predict whether someone has diabetes or not. So there might be some instances जहाँ पे the person will have diabetes और machine predict भी कर देगी that yeah the person has diabetes, right? These are true positive cases. Please give me a thumbs up once you understand what true positive is. Okay. Then we have true negative cases कि बंदे को diabetes नहीं है and the machine also predicts कि हाँ ठीक है diabetes नहीं है. These are true negative cases. These two cases of true positive and true negative, they enhance the accuracy of our model. This is what we want to achieve. I want the machine is able to predict more about true positive and true negative cases. ठीक है? But false positive and false negative. False positive means कि बंदा तो नेगेटिव था, बंदे को डायबिटीज नहीं था, बट मशीन ने पॉजिटिव प्रिडिक्ट कर दिया, मशीन सेड के डायबिटीज है. दिस इज अ फॉल्स पॉजिटिव. पॉजिटिव बट फॉल्स. देन फॉल्स नेगेटिव क्या होता है कि बंदे को डायबिटीज था बट मशीन प्रिडिक्टेड कि बंदा इज नॉट डायबिटीज. So that is a false negative case. Now, do you understand about false positive and false negative as well? Oh, yeah. If you want me to repeat, please mention in the chat box. I'll repeat myself. So what these false positive and false negative cases are, they are impacting the accuracy of your model or accuracy of anything, be it a vaccination that you're using or a machine learning model that you are creating. And we tend to minimize these negative, false positive and false negatives. Okay, so Bayes theorem, what it helps us to do, it is going to not only take into account whether the probability of an event happening depends upon some other event or not. It will also take into account the probability of something not happening. तब कितने chances हैं इस event के होने के? Do you get it? Like I'll show you the formula. I haven't included it yet. 1 minute. Just give me a moment. Yes, guys. Please have a look at this formula that you have over here. If I take you if I talk about this formula that you guys can see at the bottom. So this is an extended formula for Bayes theorem. Okay. Most commonly, you will find this formula written. The probability of y conditional x equals to probability of x conditional y into probability of y and into the joint probability of them both. Or like divided by the joint probability of both. So here in this formula, you guys can observe that not only I'm taking account कि y के होने के chances क्या है when x has occurred, but I'm also taking into account कि इनकी complement probabilities क्या है. What are the chances that x will occur when y is not occurring? And what is the probability of y occurring not at all? Okay, so this is how Bayes theorem helps me. It enhances my probability even further and helps me to make more accurate predictions. समझ में आया? A little bit vague idea भी अगर लग पाया है तो like it's good for now. Please give a thumbs up. Okay. So let's understand this example, what this example here is saying. So what we are going to do, we are going to find out a patient's probability of having liver disease if they are alcoholic. So what is the knowledge that we have whether the person is alcoholic or not? So being an alcoholic, it is what? It is a test for finding whether the liver disease is occurring in that person or not. So what A event here is, what is the event A here? So A could mean that the person has liver disease. Now let's say कि 100 पेशेंट आ रहे हैं और 100 में से क्या है 10 पे लिवर डिसीज है. So what is the probability of a person having liver disease? It would be like roughly we can calculate कि 10% of the patients they are going to have liver disease. Probability क्या हो जाएगी? It would be 0.1, right? Please give a thumbs up if you understand till here. I'll repeat myself. We are going to use Bayes theorem to understand what are the chances of a person having liver disease, having known that कि जो बंदा है he is an alcoholic. Okay. अगर मैं event A की probability, event A क्या है that the person has liver disease, उसकी probability निकालूं like just for the event A without having knowledge about whether he's an alcoholic or not. And let's say कि 100 patients आ रहे हैं मेरे clinic में जिसमें से I have a record कि 10 of them they have liver disease. Can I say that 10% or 0.1 is the probability of anyone having liver disease? Right? Okay. Now what is event B here? B is the litmus test. Okay, this is the past knowledge. It is the event that patient is an alcoholic. Let's say मेरे पास data है and I get to know कि 5% people are alcoholic here. Individual data I am talking about right now. ये था for liver disease, this is for alcoholics. So there is a chance कि 0.05 of anyone being alcoholic. Now अब अपने पास क्या है? Now we have to use Bayes theorem or we have to use conditional probability to calculate what are the chances of A conditional B. मतलब having a liver disease, knowing that a person is alcoholic. So what you guys can do, we have that formula. Like, let me take you to the formula once. This is a common formula that we use for Bayes theorem. You guys can put your values in this formula. Calculate B conditional A. B conditional A कैसे calculate करेंगे? Basically, जो conditional probability के लिए formula हमने देखा था. Just a moment, guys. Can you use B? Can you calculate B conditional A using this? दोनों का intersection divided by probability of A. Please give a thumbs up if you can. Substitute कर देंगे इस formula को. Then what you guys can do? Probability of A or probability of B calculate करनी है. That would be done as well. Here I have directly put the values. So 0.07 into 0.1 divided by 0.05. You can have a look at this presentation later and you can also like calculate on your own. So now what is the knowledge that I have? I get that the probability of A conditional B, it is 0.14. Okay. सबसे पहले the probability that I calculated for this liver disease, it was 10% या फिर 0.10. When I have the knowledge कि एक बंदा alcoholic हो सकता है, तब कितने chances of getting the disease, then I get the probability as 0.14. तो मेरी 4% probability में increase आया है. Now I am 14% assured that this person is going to have disease because I know that they are alcoholic. Okay. So this is how conditional probability can be used and applied in based like using the concept of Bayes theorem to enhance the results which you are have which you are having regarding any event. Are you guys able to spot what is the difference between these two things? पहले क्या probability आ रही थी और अब क्या आ रही है और किसकी help से आ रही है? Everyone, right? So let's go back and let's look at a demonstration from the same. Okay. So for the purpose of demonstration, I a data set and I have already dropped it uh, in the drive. Also pasting the link for the data set in the chat. Okay. Anyone who wants to attempt this demonstration with me, give me a thumbs up, access the data set. Okay, so Modraj is going to attempt. If anyone else is going to attempt, please give me a thumbs up. All right, Himanshu will attempt as well. Okay, guys, please load this data set and give me a thumbs up when you have loaded it. So I'm importing pandas and I am going to read this CSV file. The name of the CSV file is Kerala. Let me just check the name once. Yeah, it is Kerala underscore floods.csv. And this is the head of the data. Okay, once Himanshu and Motraj are done with loading their data, give me a thumbs up, guys. Is the data set accessible? Sure, I'll drop this CSV. Just give me a. Yeah, you have the CSV file in the chat box. All right, guys. Shall we start? Himanshu and Modhaj, if you have loaded the dataset. All right. Okay, so please have a look at the statement first. I have a scenario here. So Kerala is one of the worst flooded states in India. And in August 2020, the state was hit by floods that were resulted due to heavy rainfall and caused like damage of crores of property. So every year, the state experiences casualty and similar kind of damages due to heavy rainfall. So the data that we have over here, it is about the rainfall in Kerala from 1901 to 2018. This also contains information about floods, whether floods occurred that year or not. We have to use this information to calculate up to what extent the heavy rainfall is responsible for floods in Kerala. Dependence of rainfall on floods. Okay, sorry, dependence of flood on rainfall in Kerala. So the problem statement that we have to solve over here, it is the probability of rainfall more than 500 millimeter in the month of June, provided that it had flooded in that year in Kerala. So what are the chances कि rainfall जो थी जून के महीने में it was more than 500 millimeter when the given knowledge is that it flooded in that year in Kerala. Now, do you understand the statement? And do you understand the scenario? Everyone, please give me a thumbs up if you understand the scenario. Bharadwaj, Afan, Anshu, Paras, Amit, Aviraj, and Shivam. Are you guys able to understand? All right. So what we have to do, we are going to use Bayes theorem and we are going to calculate the dependent probabilities based upon past incidents. So in our case, the data of flooding and rainfall in June is available and it is going to give us information about flooding and flooding when rainfall was more than 500 millimeter. ओके तो कभी कभी तो ऐसा भी था कि जून की रेनफॉल कम थी बट स्टिल फ्लड्स हो गए बट कभी कभी रेनफॉल ज्यादा थी और तब भी फ्लड्स हुए तो वी हैव टू कैलकुलेट दिस डिपेंडेंस Now we have to use this information, and the formula that I'll be using is this one. Okay. So let's have a look at the data set first. Abhi, when I look at the data set, it has information about subdivision, about year, about Jan to December rainfall, annual rainfall, and whether floods happened or did not. ठीक है. तो इसमें से सबसे पहले तो we are going to pre-process the data. Pre-process मतलब कि अभी the data set it is not according to my requirements. मेरे को क्या चाहिए? I want to transform it so that calculating everything becomes easier for me, and I'll show you a very easy way to do this. The thing that we are going to do now, it is part of EDA, and it is part of specifically non-graphical EDA. So EDA means exploratory data analysis. When we were learning about matplotlib and seaborn and plotly, the kind of visualization that we were doing and the information that we were able to get, that was part of EDA, but of graphical kind, basically graphical exploratory data analysis. But जब आप क्या करते हो डेटा के बारे में नॉलेज अटेन कर रहे हो विदाउट ड्राइंग एनी काइंड ऑफ ग्राफ, दैट इज कॉल्ड नॉन ग्राफिकल EDA. Okay, so let's perform non-graphical EDA and get to know about our data set. So abhi the data frame that we have, it has column for June, right? यही रेनफॉल है जिससे मेरे को लेना देना है. I am not concerned about the rainfall of any other month. Also, I have been given in the question that the rainfall of June is more than 500 millimeter. This is my criteria. So let's get the scenarios जहाँ पे rainfall is more than 500 millimeter. Okay. So I'm putting a simple comparison. And what do I get? I get in terms of true and false कि rainfall ज़्यादा थी या नहीं थी. Now, in order to calculate the probability, I should have a specific number कि इतनी बार ज़्यादा थी, इतनी बार कम थी. Right? So right now, calculating these true and false instances, it is difficult for me. So what we are going to do, we are going to encode this column into ones and zeros, one for true and zero for false. And then we are going to calculate कि one कहाँ कहाँ आ रहा है, and we'll be able to get the instances कि rainfall कितनी बार more than 500 millimeter थी. To do this, like to encode it directly, you can use the as type function here. And inside the as type function, what this function does, it is going to convert your data type from one to another. Currently, the data type is Boolean. I use as type to convert it into integer. Okay. So what do I have? I have ones and zeros for rainfall more than 500 millimeter or not. For future references, let's store it inside a variable, inside a column for the data frame. So here I'm creating a new column and I'll call it June more than 500 so that I have an indication कि किसके बारे में data है. Okay, let's run it. Now, if I take you to the floods column as well, इसमें भी the information is categorical, yes or no के form में है. In order to be able to calculate it, I need to have it in form of ones and zeros. Okay, it will be comparatively easier for me to calculate. But the yes and no is not a data type, so I cannot convert it using as type function. So what do? You are well aware about the map function. Use the map function and pass a dictionary. इस डिक्शनरी में मेंशन कि आपको yes को चेंज करना है 1 से. Key and value. Key is the current value and 1 is like value that you provide with for the key. That is the number जिससे आपको replace करना है. And I want to replace no with 0. Okay. And let's store it inside a column. We can like rewrite the floods column. तो मैं इसी में ही इसको store कर दूंगी. Let's have a look at the data set. And if I go to the last, I have two new columns, एक floods का जिसकी वैल्यू हमने चेंज कर दी और एक जून की रेनफॉल का. Give me a thumbs up if you guys are able to understand everything till here, this basic pre-processing. All right. Now here अगेन आई वुड से कि इस डेटा फ्रेम में से मेरे को इन रेनफॉल का कोई लेना देना नहीं है. So let me slice out the necessary part from this data set. And how can I do it? Can you guys recall the log indexer? Anyone, can you tell me what does log do in Python? Okay, if you can't recall, log and ilog are the two indexers that you can use to slice out your data frame. And I'll do the same. Slicing में हम क्या करते हैं? We provide what? We provide the starting and the stopping index. And since in a data frame we have rows as well as columns, तो मेरे को क्या करना पड़ेगा? Rows के लिए अलग start stop value define करनी पड़ेगी और columns के लिए. Here you will see a variation of log indexer. I want to extract all the rows, and so what I'm doing, I'm not defining any start or any stop value in this case. And as for the columns, I want to extract which columns. So एक तो ईयर का कॉलम ले लेते हैं और एक जून की रेनफॉल का कॉलम ले लेते हैं एंड एक ले लेते हैं फ्लड्स का कॉलम. This is the data that I can use to calculate all the necessary values. So let's store it in a variable and we'll use this variable from now onwards. Alright. यहाँ तक किसी को कोई डाउट? Can I proceed further? Please give me a thumbs up if I can proceed further. Okay. Alright. Now the main task is to calculate कि कितनी बार 1 आ रहा है, कितनी बार 0 आ रहा है. So that it is easier. It will be like really easy if I'm able to do it. So this is the part where we are going to do the non-graphical EBA. So there is a function that is called cross tab. In this function, it allows you to compare two quantities. Okay? And gives you a number of occurrences of different values that are present here. So जैसे 1 कितनी बार आ रहा है, 0 कितनी बार आ रहा है. Can you guys recall the scatter plot? Scatter plot भी क्या कर रहा था? It was able to tell me the relation between two quantities, but it was doing it with help of visualization. यहाँ पे we'll get it in form of numbers. So use the pd dot cross tab function. और मेरे को किस पे cross tabulation करना है? I have to do it on the column of floods. Okay, and rainfall. Okay, let's run it. How easily am I able to get the of zeros and ones rainfall column? You guys can see, मतलब you have to mention here कि कौन सी value आपको rows पे चाहिए. So on rows I have floods के occurrences. On columns I have rainfall के occurrences, whether rainfall occurred or not. One more thing can be done here is if you set margins parameter equals to true. Please observe the change in the data frame now when margin is set to true. I also get the calculation. So 19 plus 6, 25, 39 plus 54, 93. और रो का भी कैलकुलेशन मेरे को मिल जाता है. टोटल इंस्टेंसेस कितने हैं, that is also available to me now. For your ease, I'm going to change margins का नाम. So margins name is the parameter you can use for that. And what you guys can do, you can set it to whatever name you want to display. So total. Okay. Now please, for a minute, have a look at the table and understand it. What information is it conveying? These are the instances. Okay, there were 19 cases when floods did not occur and the rainfall was also less than 500 millimeter. There are 6 cases where floods occur but rainfall was less. 39 cases where no floods were there but rainfall was more. And there were 54 cases जहाँ पे rainfall was also high and floods also occurred. Even looking at the data, I can conclude कि हाँ कुछ तो dependency है floods की on rainfall. Yet let's calculate the probability. ठीक है, कितनी ज्यादा डिपेंडेंट है. Do you guys understand this table? Please give a thumbs up if you understand what this table is conveying. Okay. Now we are going to step by step calculate all the values that can be put into this formula. मेरे को A की probability चाहिए, मेरे को B conditional A चाहिए, ठीक है. And what B conditional A is, please I'll mention it here. So B conditional A is probability of B and A divided by probability of A. ठीक है. So this is the formula that I'll put there and substitute it with the values. अब step by step calculate कैसे करना है. Firstly, I'll mention you what the events are here. So event A क्या है? Rainfall more than 500 millimeter in June. This is event A. Event B क्या है? It is basically floods हुए थे या नहीं हुए थे. Alright, please from now on I'll be like using these events as A and B events. ठीक है. So सबसे पहले what do we need to do? We have to calculate their individual probabilities, right? One or the other way we are going to use it. So let's calculate. So firstly we'll calculate what is the probability of having rainfall more than 800 millimeter in June. Okay. Now can you tell me how many times rainfall occurred in June? Looking at this data, what are the total cases that rainfall occurred in June? Can you look at this data and tell me? 93, right? There were 13 cases जिसमें rainfall हुई, floods नहीं हुई. There were 54 cases जिसमें rainfall भी थी, flood भी थे, and total there are 93 such cases. Got it? So what you guys can do, you can directly calculate the probability that 93 are my cases of having a rainfall more than 500 millimeter. And what is my sample space here? Can you tell me total rainfall कितनी होगी? Yeah, 118, correct. So 118. So there is a 0.78 probability of rainfall being more than 500 millimeter in June. If you want, for your ease, you can even round off this probability using the round function. Just pass your expression and also pass ki kitne decimal places tak ka data you have to seek. Okay, so I get a one simple easy probability 0.788. Let's store it inside a variable. So I am going to call this variable probability of June 500. Okay, so that it conveys the information that it is stored. Now let's calculate the probability of flooding. Let's go back to the data. Can you tell me how many total scenarios were there? Total cases जहाँ पे floods हुए थे. Total cases for floods. Yeah, it is 60. 6 cases जहाँ rainfall नहीं हुई, 54 cases जहाँ rainfall भी हो रही थी. Total 60. Again, the sample space is 118, so divide the same. Let me copy this part. 60 divided by 180, and we will call it the probability of floods. Okay, so there is a 50% chance कि floods होंगे. Now, what we have to calculate? We have to calculate the probability of floods and rainfall. Why do I need it? क्योंकि मेरे को conditional probability भी तो calculate करनी है, और उसके लिए I need the intersection of both. So let's go to the data and tell me कि ऐसे कितने cases थे जहाँ rainfall भी हो रही थी और floods भी हो रहे थे. Yeah, rainfall was also there and floods were also there. 54, correct. So let's do our drill. 54 divided by 180. And these are the cases की rainfall भी थी and Let's be clear. Okay, so 45% chances कि rainfall और floods साथ में होंगे. Now, what do we have to calculate? We have to calculate the conditional probability. What is the conditional probability here in this case? Probability of flooding given that it rained more than 500 millimeter in June. So अभी तो हमने intersection calculate किया और flood की rainfall की probability पहले ही calculate कर दी थी. So let's divide the two and we will have our conditional probability. Got it? So probability of floods given कि June rainfall was 500, it is going to be the intersection of these probabilities divided by the probability of rainfall. And rounded to 3 decimal places. So again, 58% chances कि probability of having flood given that rainfall has already occurred. Jahan tak anyone has any doubt, if you have any doubt, please write in the chat box. If there is no doubt, then give me a thumbs up. Please react with a thumbs up, guys, if no doubt. All right. But the whole task objective, it is not achieved. We have to do a lot. Abhi bhi. Now let's go back to the formula. This is calculated. Probability of A B है अपने पास, B conditional A भी है. One part of the denominator is this thing only, so no worries. Now we have to calculate the probability of complement events. मतलब, what is the chance of rainfall not occurring and what is the chance of floods occurring when rainfall hasn't occurred? Okay, so let's calculate it. Let's go back. अब वैसे तो आप like 500 and 1, ठीक है? This is the probability of rainfall not occurring. अब वैसे तो you can directly minus or subtract it from 1 and you'll get it. But please look at the data and tell me how many cases are there जहाँ पे rainfall नहीं हुई है. Like, please tell me कितने cases थे जिसमें rainfall नहीं हो रही थी. 25, right? Just give me a moment, I'll plug in my charger. Okay. So we know कि 25 cases ऐसे थे जिसमें rainfall नहीं हो रही थी. So let's calculate it. Around 25 divided by 118 and round it off to 3. Again, I'm mentioning कि 1 में से directly minus करोगे of probability of rainfall तब भी आ जाएगा. Okay. The next task is to calculate the probability of flooding given that it rained less than 500 millimeters. So what you have to do? Probability of flood and rainfall less than 500 millimeters. Let's go back. Can you look at the data directly and tell me कि फ्लड के होने के कितने चांसेस थे जब रेनफॉल नहीं हुई थी? I'll repeat myself. फ्लड्स के होने के कितने चांसेस थे जब रेनफॉल नहीं हुई थी? Yeah, there are 6 such instances. So do the same. Probability of floods given rainfall did not occur. And let's put it in the formula. So there were how many? Okay, sorry. एक चीज इधर I would like to mention once again. This value that I was asking कि मतलब फ्लड के होने के कितने चांसेस है एंड रेनफॉल नहीं हुई. Okay, this is the value of like a specific probability of floods and rainfall not occurring, intersection of these two events, basically uh, B and A complement का intersection. Let me, yeah. If I want to calculate the conditional probability itself, कि मेरे को फॉर्मूले से ही ये चीज कैलकुलेट कर देनी है, like just looking at the data, can I do that? I know कि 6 instances तो वो थे जिसमें फ्लड हुए और बारिश नहीं हुई. And in order to get the conditional probability, I have to know कि how many total instances were there जहाँ पे बारिश नहीं हो रही थी, right? क्योंकि डिवाइड किससे करना है? कॉम्प्लीमेंट से. So there were 25 total instances जहाँ बारिश नहीं हुई. So instead of dividing it by 118 and then calculating A naught again, can I directly divide it by 25? Can I do this? Please give me a thumbs up if you understand what I mean here. Okay, instead of calculating these things individually, I am directly dividing 6, which is the probability of intersection of B and A complement, by the total instances of A complement, which is 25. So here I'll make a little change. This gives me 0.24. Now we have everything. Okay. अपने पास numerator भी है, अपने पास denominator भी है. Let's put all of them in the formula. Okay. So what the formula is, the probability of floods, sorry, the rainfall multiplied the probability of floods given rainfall occurred, divided by the same, and add it to it the complement of the two. So this, and multiply it by the complement conditional probability. What do I get as a result? I get 0.89. What can I infer from this result? So this is my final result. Can you tell me what is the deduction or what is the insight we get from this result? Anyone? हम क्यों कैलकुलेट कर रहे थे ये basically? Like we were checking the dependence of rainfall on floods, right? And we got this as a conditional probability. Okay. So what can we infer from this? Basically, there is a 90% chance, like if I round it up, there is a 90% chance of rainfall being more than 500 millimeter. जब हमें पता हो, when it's known कि flood occurred. Okay, so this is a, yeah, Vikas sir wrote it correctly. So this is the dependence that we get कि अगर like we know कि हाँ floods हुए थे, so 90% chances कि floods का होने का कारण was कि rainfall ज़्यादा थी in June. Do you guys understand everything that we have done so far? Please give me a thumbs up if you liked the case study and if you like the demonstration and it becomes more clear to you now कि कैसे इसको data sets पे use करना है. Where is the application of Bayes theorem? Now, if I ask one last question before ending the session, अभी हमने क्या किया? We calculated the probability of rainfall more than 500 millimeter in June, provided that it flooded that year in Kerala. If I reverse it, if I say I want to know the probability of flood in Kerala, what is the probability of flood in Kerala given that rainfall is more than 500 millimeter in June? Will you get the same result or will the probability be different? अभी तो A conditional B किया है, yeah, obviously different. ठीक है? So everything is different, and as a task, just to understand all the things that we have done, you guys can attempt it. कि अभी A conditional B किया है, try to do B conditional A in your free time. All right, with this, we'll end today's session. I hope that it was helpful and I was able to make you guys understand what is conditional probability and Bayes theorem. I know that theoretical concepts can be a little bit difficult and boring, but these are very important in order to understand the demonstration at a later stage.